I finally got my hands on an RTX 50 series GPU, and it's time to find out if Nvidia has more to offer than just leather jackets. The card I have with me is an RTX 5080 Aorus Master Ice, featuring over 10,000 CUDA cores, 16 gigs of VRAM on a 256-bit bus, and launching alongside DLSS 4 with multi-frame generation. The Aorus Master Ice comes with RGB Halo fans and a sleek LCD edge view display, which offers customizable presets, or if you prefer, you can just upload your own video or GIF. For testing, I slapped the card in my AMD test bench and ran a series of benchmarks, first without AI upscaling or frame generation, and then where applicable, using FSR or DLSS quality mode with frame generation enabled. In Black Myth Wukong, the RTX 5080 shows about an 18% uplift over the RTX 4080 Super, which it directly replaces. Meanwhile, AMD's RX 7900 XTX, which sits in the same pricing tier, struggles significantly, turning the game into more of a presentation than a playable experience. That said, even Nvidia's numbers aren't exactly what I'd call smooth, until you enable AI upscaling and frame generation, which rescues the frame rate. But playing below 60 FPS with frame generation on isn't ideal, since that means that the base frame rate is actually dipping below 30 FPS, so in this case I'd maybe lower the settings a bit. The new Monster Hunter Wilds sees all three cards perform similarly, with the RTX 5080 slightly edging out the last gen models. However, enabling AI upscaling and frame generation flips the script, giving AMD a clear performance lead. Much like Monster Hunter, in F124, the RTX 4080 Super and RX 7900 XTX perform nearly identical, while the RTX 5080 pulls ahead with a noticeable lead. But once AI upscaling enters the mix, AMD gains a significant advantage, with the RX 7900 XTX jumping ahead of the Nvidia cards. But moving on to Cyberpunk 2077, this is where we see Nvidia's real play for this generation, extremely demanding ray-traced performance. With RT enabled, frame rates on high-end cards are still barely acceptable, but with DLSS 4 and multi-frame generation, performance jumps to extremely smooth levels. Speaking of multi-frame generation, this is Nvidia's secret weapon in the RTX 50 series. With 2x to 4x frame generation, the gap between AMD and Nvidia becomes absolutely massive. Even at 4K, these new cards barely break a sweat when it's enabled. For those interested in synthetics, the RTX 5080 shows a solid generational improvement over the RTX 4080 Super and RX 7900 XTX in 3D Mark Steel Nomad. Now, with increased performance comes higher power draw. However, compared to the RX 7900 XTX, Nvidia still leads in performance per watt, especially when factoring in multi-frame generation. So, if you're thinking of picking up the RTX 5080 Aorus Master Ice, you're probably drawn by its stunning design or great performance. But just make sure to have a properly sized chassis and a solid 850 watt or higher ATX 3.1 power supply to make sure that you can handle it.